Okay. So this practice of 10 petals arose in a similar way, and is something that came to me during, as I said, my 2-week retreat in June. Um, I'm going to share screen here so I can show you this little drawing that I made. Some of you may have seen this already. Let's close this down and move this over. Yes, Chris has a cluttered desktop. He's working on it. Um, this is this picture here, if you can see it, is something I drew in the moment as I was practicing, and I was in the middle of, well, I was sort of at the start of a 2-week period of solitude here at home, and had been practicing for a few days on clearing so much stuff that had accumulated in my space, um, and a lot of sort of personal things that had been coming up during that period. And I found that once all of that clutter lifted, once sort of I felt more free, um, this process, and I guess I would call this more so than a technique, it's a process of practice, arose whenever I would sit. And it came to me in the form of this 10 petals. The first 5 petals actually are the first sort of foundation that arose. And these represent these qualities. So there are 10 qualities here represented by the petals. The first 5 are largely qualities of mindfulness. And the last 5 are more qualities of presence, of awareness that deepen and cultivate. And they rely on the foundation of the first 5. So as you can see from this rather rudimentary sketch here that I made in the moment, there are 5 petals below and 5 petals on top. And so the 5 petals below are the foundation upon which we're able to experience the 5 petals on top. So taken together, the 10 petals. Now, the way that it arose for me in my practice was that initially sitting, once I had kind of been able to sit with some mindfulness and do some breathing and such, I think this was on the 3rd day. This is no reference to a Christian thing here. Oh, maybe it is, and I didn't know it. On the 3rd day was when this really began to settle in. And the first thing I found that was so important was to cultivate this sense of neutrality. Sense of neutrality. And neutrality can be kind of a funny word. For some people, it might infer a not caring, a state of non-caring. And here, by neutrality, this is a word that my teacher Leslie often used, to cultivate a sense of neutrality really is about more so cultivating a state of equanimity, a state of even-mindedness, where as I sit within my body and my spine is straight and I'm feeling a sense of evenness in my posture, that I meet whatever comes, whatever arises with non-judgment and with equanimity. No preference one way or the other. Whatever comes is simply something that arises, and it then vanishes on its own usually. And so meeting a thought as simply a thought, not a good thought or a bad thought or a preferable thought to a less preferable thought, just thought. Thought alone. Neutrality. Seeing all thoughts as equal. Seeing this thought as that thought. So neutrality largely being this sort of balanced state of non-judgment and just sort of bearing witness in a neutral way to what comes. And we can experience that in an embodied way by simply settling into the body and practicing embodying neutrality. And same with receptivity. Once we're neutral, well, my experience of this was that the neutrality allowed for a much more open sense of receptivity, of receiving things as they are. That without the neutrality, I'm still rejecting. I'm still averse to certain things. I'm, sort of discriminating between this and that. And so neutrality opens the way for receptivity. the receptivity as an allowing of things. So if a thought comes or an emotion, something unpleasant, I'm being able to hold it with neutrality or with equanimity. We could use that word as well. And with receptivity, much more, in a sense, when we're no longer resisting or averse to experiences, that the mind naturally settles more easily into a state of stillness. That stillness itself is an outcome of being neutral and receptive. And because the mind begins to settle, and we are relating to the mind differently. We're relating to the thoughts, to our reactions, and all the things that arise differently. So the mind can settle into a place of stillness. And stillness opens us much more to an expanded experience of the present moment. And we can certainly touch the present through our senses in any given moment, just by taking a breath or hearing a sound and going, ah, a sound, present moment. And that's fine. Neutrality, receptivity, stillness, all of a sudden, like walking into an open field on a dark woodland hike with lots of trees where we've been in the shade for a long time. We come into this open field, this sunlit field of the present moment when all the clutter is gone. And really being here and now in a very embodied way, embodying the present. And that allows for effortlessness even more. And we may have already encountered an effortless state, but effortlessness arising out of this stillness and this experience of the present moment. Effortlessness, no longer having to try or strive for anything. No need to control even the practice. But what does it mean to abide in deep simplicity? Just a state of effortless simplicity. And so these five, the foundation, allowing then for presence to take on, or rather to reveal, because we already have these qualities, to reveal a sense of brightness in our own awareness. Supported by these first five petals, the sixth petal becomes luminosity, or radiance is another way to say it. That the mind, that awareness itself is so bright and pristine that we experience it as luminous, almost like a shining sun in an open sky. And luminosity or radiance, recognizing this quality not just as being an inner quality, but a spacious quality that goes beyond the limits of body. So awareness itself becoming spacious. Spaciousness, boundless awareness. And that awareness then revealing the quality of pristine clarity. That awareness itself is fundamentally clear and vivid and open. Even if clouds gather in the sky and they disperse, if thoughts arise, they disperse too. That clarity is undisturbed, almost like shapes in a mirror, reflections in a mirror do not impact the mirror. But we don't mistake the mirror for the reflections. We just see them as changing projections of mind. And clarity, with this foundation of luminosity, of brilliance and spaciousness and clarity, we find that the heart follows this process and opens so that we can recognize that we are fundamentally loving. That the heart is open, the heart is luminous, the heart is spacious, the heart is clear. And this natural quality of gentle awareness, of loving kindness, compassion, unconditional, arises freely. It arises more freely, like a flower opening in the morning sun. We are able to experience the heart as fundamentally loving. And with all of these, we can then say, I embody awakening. That the final petal is a culmination of the first nine, that to be established and settled in this place, we can realize, I am awake. I am awake. So the practice of the 10 petals then, yes, it's a process. And we go through it 3 times. What what I found really important was first I go through these 10 petals and I basically affirm I embody neutrality. I embody receptivity. So I really experience each of these in the physical body as I'm sitting. So I rally the body into the practice. It makes it easy to experience when it's physical. And then the second time through is more of an identification, sort of a, what's the word, a synergy or a resonance by becoming neutral. I am neutral. I am receptive. I am still. And so much of this being suggestive, that where we drop these notions into ourselves, we allow these states to work us by giving ourselves over to these things. And first embodiment, then for identification. And then the third time through, we recognize that each of these states and each of these qualities has more universal significance, that we just name them, just naming the quality, not saying I embody this or I am, but simply neutral. The quality itself is our experience. The quality itself opens us to this universal quality of neutrality. We are now deeply plugged in. We are part of something much bigger. And we are the source of it as well. Receptivity. Just naming it, boom. Stillness. No longer about me versus something else. It is only this. Tattvamasi, as the great song says. I am that. Only this. So what we find is, I like to think of this not as a circle, as three circles, but rather as a spiral. And the first round we do is embodying each petal. And the second round, the spiral ascends up a bit. And the third round, it ascends up even higher to the point where we are transforming, ascending in the practice. You might see it also as deepening. Some people don't like the ascension idea. You can deepen it too. You can start here and you can deepen and go even deeper if you like. Whatever kind of works for your resonance.